Hello and welcome back. It has been some time since I've released my last video due to Queen Elizabeth II's passing, and kind of my way to respect her and the family, the British people, just my version of respect. Some time to mourn and reflect and think of the life that she has lived and all that she accomplished, and how now the whole world, truly the world, has gathered around to pay their respects, to give her this final farewell. So with this video, this is the final farewell to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. So this will be something that I really want to watch with you, understand what's happening, because I've been learning a lot about the history of the British people, the royal family, the Queen herself, which makes this moment much more meaningful to me now that I have learned and understood and talked with you all. So let me start this. The final farewell to Her Majesty. I'll try not to pause it often. I know there's going to be a lot in here that I just don't understand, but I will leave that all for the end.
The historic and moving funeral of Queen Elizabeth still echoes tonight, a ceremony the likes of which we might never see again. The final farewell to the United Kingdom's longest-serving monarch, the Queen for 70 years, leading by her example of duty, service, and dignity. The monarch, and of course, the matriarch of her family. The deeply moving moments we witnessed here today. The state funeral in Westminster Abbey right behind us, where Queen Elizabeth was married and where she was crowned. 2,000 mourners inside the Abbey here. Presidents, prime ministers, monarchs, and of course her family. The Queen's successor, King Charles III, the message he left on his mother's casket. 3 generations, Princes William and Harry together, along with William's 2 oldest children, Prince George and Princess Charlotte. And then, of course, the final journey from here in London to Windsor. Crowds on both sides of the route, silence, and then moments of spontaneous applause. They could not hold back their love for their queen. Thousands of police and military personnel along the way. At Windsor Castle, the solemn ritual at St. George's Chapel, the committal service for the queen. The symbol of her reign ending, the crown removed from the top of the coffin, the wand of office snapped in two. The Queen's coffin lowered into the royal vault, joining her parents, her sister Princess Margaret, and of course her beloved husband, Prince Philip, who died just last year. It was their promise, whoever died first would wait for the other. Tonight, you will hear the Queen's piper, who played for her nearly every morning, play for the Queen one final time, and the mourners then singing, God Save the King.
These scenes are all still, it's been a while now, over a week now, and it's still kind of a gut-wrenching, I guess you could say. Just really bad feeling in the gut when you see that. Conflicted of half of me is very fortunate and thankful that I got to live kind of a good life, a long life with Queen Elizabeth II as queen. You know, it was kind of, you know, ever since the mass majority of us have been around, it's always been a queen, and it just kind of seemed like that's how it always would be. It's just, you know, it's a almost like a fact. Just someone that's been around for your whole life, that's been respected your whole life, that you've known about your whole life. Feel very grateful for that. But then on the other side, you know, it just makes it a little harder to watch this and seeing, especially all the faces of the family, to see this take place. Everyone from other countries, the British people, and just kind of seeing their reactions and how they do this. Even I don't really understand as of now why the wand, I believe it was snapped. It was hard seeing the crown, like the symbolism of the crown being taken off of the casket was, I could watch that a few more times to try to wrap my head around how big of an event this is. But it's just, you know, it's conflicting. Like, I'm just very thankful and happy that we lived a long life with her as queen. But then your gut just feels horrible. You feel like you got sucker punched because of her passing. So it's just like, you know, emotions are kind of tug of war, pulling back and forth.
Tonight, the final farewell, the final journey for Queen Elizabeth. Tens of thousands lining the streets from London to Windsor to witness this moment in history and to pay tribute to a queen who promised at 21 to devote her life to service. The pallbearers from the British Army, 8 soldiers from the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards, carrying out the coffin, placing it on the state gun carriage. The procession as the Queen's coffin is carried to Westminster Abbey for the state funeral, the first since Sir Winston Churchill. The carriage followed by King Charles III and members of Britain's royal family, including the Queen's daughter, Princess Anne, by her mother's side for this entire journey. Her grandsons, Prince William, now the heir to the throne, and Prince Harry, walking together again in a show of unity for their grandmother. Queen Consort Camilla and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, traveling together. William and Catherine deciding to bring their 2 oldest children, George and Charlotte, looking out through the windows as London paid tribute to their great-grandmother. Inside the funeral service, 2,000 guests in attendance, leaders from all over the world. Britain's current and former prime ministers, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, Theresa May, and Tony Blair, Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden walking in, holding hands. The casket entering the Abbey as the choir sings. On top of the casket, the royal standard, the sovereign's orb and scepter, and the Imperial State Crown, the crown she first put on at the end of her coronation right here at Westminster Abbey nearly 70 years ago. The wreath on the coffin with a handwritten note from her son, King Charles, in loving and devoted memory, Charles R. The flowers cut from the gardens of the royal residences, including myrtle, grown from some of the myrtle in the Queen's wedding bouquet in 1947. Of course, married to Philip for 73 years. Prince William, now joined by Princess Catherine and their children. Prince Harry with Duchess Meghan. The view overhead revealing the scope of the ceremony. Among the hymns, Psalm 23, sung at the Queen's wedding in 1947 to Philip. Theirs was the longest marriage in royal history. The Archbishop of Canterbury.
Her late Majesty famously declared on a 21st birthday broadcast that her whole life would be dedicated to serving the nation and Commonwealth. Rarely has such a promise been so well kept.
Tens of thousands gathering in nearby Hyde.
That is something that is extremely true. Ever since she made that first broadcast, I mean, her whole life, to her last day, I even heard, I don't know if it's true, but probably she had meetings set that day and, days after that of conferences and calls to make out. It's just incredible. It is truly incredible and inspiring. It's something else.
Park to watch the service and pay their respects. Near the end of the service, across the United Kingdom, 2 minutes of silence for their Queen. Across Britain, hundreds of thousands moved. Then the congregation singing God Save the King. Queen Camilla singing next to the King, clearly moved by the moment. Harry and Meghan standing directly behind. The Queen's piper, who played for the Queen nearly every morning below her window, now playing Sleep, Dearie, Sleep. The Queen, who was married and crowned here in Westminster Abbey, leaving for the final time. The procession through the streets of London, Royal Navy sailors pulling her coffin, a nod to the Queen's volunteer service during World War II, and of course her role as Commander-in-Chief. The procession passing beneath the Arch and Horse Guards parade, the guardsmen filling the space as the massive crowds await on both sides. A short time later, the Queen's coffin would pass the statues of the Queen's mother and father, parents who could never have imagined her 70-year reign, the longest in British history.
I felt as she passed, her parents were looking at her and were saying, "We're really proud of you. You've done a great job."
The Queen's coffin passing by the royal balcony at Buckingham Palace, where just this past June, she last waved to the crowds here. The procession making its way toward Wellington Arch, where the Queen's coffin was transferred from the carriage to the state hearse, the design approved by the Queen for the 25-mile trip to Windsor Castle. The royal family looking on, her great-grandchildren, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, standing in front of Prince William and Princess Catherine. King Charles saluting as the hearse pulls away. Princess Anne, again, in the car behind the coffin. It was her mother's wish that her daughter be near every part of this final journey, from Balmoral back to London, and now as she leaves for Windsor for the last time. And then the 2-hour drive to Windsor. Along the route, her coffin seen through the large clear glass.
That's incredible as well. I wish if I was anywhere near there, even probably in Europe, I would probably fly in to see this. My question is, I'm sure some of you went to see this somewhere, saw this happen, saw one of these events, and I would like to hear if you did and what did you see, and kind of the general, it sounds weird, but like mood of it, because like what was the mood like? What was the day like? Because I know that really that perspective really puts me there, and other people that couldn't go, like truly to see and feel in a way how it was that day, because this is truly a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's your only opportunity to see, I don't know how you'd say it, the kind of this old world to this new world kind of transition in the monarchy, if that was said properly. I always go back to, you know, the generation of World War II dubbed the greatest generation, and I mean, time and time again, that title is very correct.
Windsor, traveling the long walk. So many people along the route throwing flowers in honor of their queen.
Look at all the flowers that are there on the hearse.
Arriving at Windsor Castle, the view of the crowds through the archway.
Look at that view. Look at that view.
Extraordinary.
It's extraordinary.
And waiting there, members of the royal family, even Queen Elizabeth's corgis, waiting for the Queen's arrival. The Reverend Dr. Ian Greenshields, who shared dinner with the Queen the weekend before she died while he was visiting Balmoral. And he told us today her memory was as sharp as ever. She was engaged in conversation, and he told us about her walk to the window.
She took me over to the window and she was just showing me the different gardens and flower beds that were there, and just pointing out just the estate that brought her so much comfort and peace in her life. She spoke of it and said that she'd no regrets having started that journey of faith. She had no regrets at all.
No regrets for a queen who pledged to serve as a young woman. Inside St. George's Chapel, the finality of this moment in history. The scepter and orb carefully taken off the coffin. Then the Imperial State Crown removed, marking the end of Queen Elizabeth's reign. The Lord Chamberlain, the most senior role appointed by the royal household, breaking his wand to signify the end of service to the Queen. The coffin lowered into the royal vault. The Queen's piper playing his final song for the Queen, the music hanging in the air, fading into the distance as he walked away. Then, inside the chapel, God Save the King. Tonight, the Queen has been laid to rest with her mother and father and sister, Princess Margaret, and she is now alongside her husband of 73 years, the late Prince Philip. And as the world said goodbye to the Queen today, we remembered what she said not so long ago during the pandemic, words that are just as meaningful tonight.
We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
It was profoundly moving here today, and we thought of the Queen's words while we were on the air. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again. I want to bring in our foreign correspondent, James Longman. And James, we were all on the air together today. We know tonight, long after the cameras, that private service with just the family, their final goodbye. And of course, Queen Elizabeth reunited with her husband of 73 years.
Going back a little bit of how sharp her mind was till her last days is also an incredible thing. You know, a lot of 96, and I wanted to react to this American news network because hopefully that is also enlightening to you, for you to see how an American news station and newscasters kind of present this, and kind of how what we're seeing over here in the U.S. Because I think that's very telling as well of how significant the passing is. Definitely made ripples around the world. Every single night I'll see things about Queen Elizabeth II, her family, what's going on, King Charles III, which, to be honest, still takes a second to really say and understand what I'm saying. It's still weird to me to say that. It'll take some time to say King Charles, which maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe that's everyone. I wanted to go back to, for me, the most powerful, emotional, a mix of emotion, you know, like I stated before. But this whole scene here, but most of all, for whatever reason for me, is when she's being lowered. It's the last time, truly the final farewell that you could give to Queen Elizabeth II, being laid to rest next to her family, and it's a beautiful thing, which is still pretty hard to wrap my head around. I'd like to know if you went to any of these events. How long were you there? Did you wait in that? I heard the line was 11 plus hours to pay your respects to the Queen. I saw David Beckham waited, I don't know, 8 hours or something, or maybe he was the 11 hours. A lot of respect for him to do that. So thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Thanks for any stories that you will tell in the comments. I'll join in that. And have a good rest of your day.